Is the Office of Gene Technology actually going to perform any genotoxicity studies on the vaccine, given that no genotoxicity studies were done before the vaccine was rolled out?
Okay, thank you for your question, Senator. Raj Bula, Gene Technology Regulator. Genotoxicity studies in terms of the impact of the vaccine would be part of the data package that's submitted to the TGA. That's not information that we require because the OGTR does not look at patient safety as part of its remit under the Gene Technology Act, so that's a TGA question.
Okay, then I'll ask the professors this. There was no genotoxicity study done before the rollout of the vaccine. The vaccine's been rolled out now for almost up to 18 months, 20 months. Has any genotoxicity study been done or performed on the vaccine, given that there are a number of modifications to the spike protein that weren't in the initial virus?
Just to see if Ms Duffy from the TGA is online, whether the TGA officials can provide any information about that, but they obviously are across all of the material that's submitted as part of the vaccine evaluation. Is Ms Duffy? Yeah. Oh, you're here. Yeah, great. You're here. No, if you don't, take on that. Yeah.
Hi, how are you going?
Good, thanks. Tracy Duffy, First Assistant Secretary, Medical Devices Product Quality Division. I'm sorry, Senator, I don't have that information, but I'm happy to take it on notice and bring it back on Thursday if that's
okay,
suitable.
that's fine, because initially when you looked at the, whatever it was, the assessment, it said there was no genotoxicity studies done at all, plus carcinogenic, plus longevity. So I'm just curious if you've done any since.
We'll go back and be able to provide that information on Thursday.
But then I'll finish off with this question then. I have a question for the whole Department of Health as a whole. Why did you, given that this was new technology, allow this vaccine to be rolled out without getting genotoxicity studies done, given that the actual vaccine virus contained methyl pseudouridine that replaced uridine? You had 3 stop codons, not 1. You had a proline insertion at 986 and 987, and you added 70 adenine nucleotides to the poly A tail, which was going to increase its duration of lifespan. So surely all of those things, I mean, a normal vaccine, you attenuate the vaccine. You don't, put Superman cape on it and strengthen it by increasing its longevity.
Senator, we have great confidence in our regulatory system, in our TGA, in our Advisory Committee on Vaccines, and the portfolio of information that they reviewed from the vaccine sponsors were sufficient to convince them that these vaccines were safe to roll out, and the department, obviously the delegate, who's my delegate in a sense, I have great confidence in the competence and training of those people, advised by the various experts that they have, and their view was that there was accumulation of data submitted before the vaccines were provisionally approved, and now we have multiple billions of doses administered without any evidence of the sort of things that I think you are suggesting might be possible. So we were very confident.
Well, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm happy to suggest that there's been almost 140,000 reported adverse events at a rate. I accept there's 20 million people have got the vaccine, but that is at a rate that is more than all the vaccine reported injuries from vaccines since 1971 put together. So we've all had multiple vaccine shots over the years. So to say that there's no evidence, I completely dispute that. Plus, as for having confidence, I mean, we've had over 10 million cases of COVID in the first 9 months since the borders were opened in late December, right? You yourself, Professor Kelly, said there was evidence of stopping the transmission. I've got the report here from the FDA that said Pfizer said there was no evidence of ever stopping transmission. They never tested for it. That came out in the European Parliament 3 weeks ago. So I don't see how you can say you've got confidence when, you got it wrong on transmission, which is an easy benchmark to measure this stuff by.
Well, Senator, I don't think we did get it wrong on transmission. I accept that evidence that Pfizer gave, but the clinical epidemiology, and Professor Kelly can attest to this, before Omicron, there was clear evidence that vaccination was impacting on transmission. In fact, the vaccination was what controlled the Delta wave in New South Wales. We absolutely accept that with Omicron, the vaccines are not as effective in controlling transmission, but all of the evidence we have suggests that they are highly effective in preventing severe disease and saving lives. So we might have had millions of cases, but we would have had a very large number of deaths if we hadn't had a highly vaccinated population.
It's funny you say that, because I've got the 6-month data here from the New England Journal from the Pfizer trial, and it actually shows that adverse events from the actual vaccine group were much, much higher than the actual placebo group. So yet again, you say you've got evidence, and I've been tracking the New South Wales health data again, and there's no evidence there. It's people have had multiple boosters are the ones going to hospitals.
That's not true. That is not
No, it's there. You can go and look at the New South Wales health data you like.
It's not true, Senator, and you're cherry-picking various bits of data there.
Well, that's all I've got to work with is the New South Wales health data, because the other state departments don't release anything.
Well,
yeah,
I dispute that is the way, that is certainly how you are interpreting that data is not how I would interpret it with my expert eye.
Well, okay, I haven't got those particular New South Wales health numbers in front of me, but the vaccinated 1, 2, 3, 4 groups all have higher numbers of hospital transmission and ICU admission.
We know absolutely without hesitation that fully vaccinated people, just 2 doses is enough to give at least a 30 times less chance of being hospitalised in Australia. That's Australian data.
So based on what? Because the non-clinical report said...
Based on the truth and facts.
Okay, so no, be more specific than that. Actually quote the data source, please.
Yeah, so that's the data source from the national data that we have in the Commonwealth, which is provided to us by the states and territories.
Okay, can you provide that to me? Because I haven't seen the other state data
I'm very
outside
happy
New South Wales.
to provide that to you on notice, Senator.
Okay, because you accept you got it wrong with transmission, because you told my colleague, Senator Alexander, last time.
No, I do not accept that I got it wrong on transmission. The original papers, which I've read in full, not in extract, as you seem to have done, demonstrates very clearly that there is an effect on infection from the original trials of Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Moderna and the others. What Professor Murphy has said is that with the change to the virus and the higher transmissibility issues that we've dealt with in Omicron over the last year, that has changed the ballpark.
So you've got studies that show
the original
that
Pfizer
you've reduced
studies,
the immunoglobulin A. You've got an immunoglobulin A response in the mucosal system. Because that's not in the non-clinical report. It shows an immunoglobulin G response in the blood, not in the mucosal system.
I'm talking about the clinical outcomes and the epidemiological outcomes of the phase 3 trials from the companies themselves.
The phase 3 trials that I've got from the 6-month data shows adverse events are higher.
I'm not talking about 6 months. At 6 months, what we have found is that it has waned, that particular immunity. Probably
Well, the non-clinical
reasons,
shows it wanes up to 35 days.
probably for the reasons that you've mentioned, because they're not very strong on mucosal immunity. So that is correct. But
No, that was immunoglobulin G. There's no studies on immunoglobulin A. There's been no studies on immunoglobulin A response in the mucosal system. And the reason for that is that you're not going to get an immunoglobulin A response in the mucosal system if you do an intramuscular.
Could I just ask you to phrase it as a question, please?
Okay. Have you got any studies that show immunoglobulin A response in the mucosal system from the vaccine?
The current vaccines that are on the market are not designed to deal with that system. They are dealing with other parts of immunity, and they do that very successfully, as Professor Murphy has said, in terms of protection against severe infection and death. I'm
talking about transmission now. The question originally was in regards to what you said previously.
We're jumping around a fair bit, yeah.
Okay, I'm asking the question, do you have any studies to back up your prior claims and ATAGI's prior claims that it would reduce transmission, okay? And to do that, you've got to show an immunoglobulin A response in the mucosal system. Have you got any studies?
No.
Senator, with respect, what you need to show is that there is no transmission or there is an influence on transmission. What the actual mechanism for that is a completely different laboratory-based study protocol.
And is there any of those studies done on immunoglobulin A in the mucosal system?
Look, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. That's all I need to know.